Hello everyone, this is Duke from Developer Inspire Us. How are you guys doing? Welcome back to Daily Challenge. In today's Daily Challenge, we will have a slight introduction to core graphics. So now this is a very simple app that we are going to build, in which we just have two buttons. So if you notice over here, we have a minus and a plus button, okay? And the special things about these buttons is that we don't just drag out some button and have some background image on these. We actually use code to draw on the screen. So let's find out how are we going to do this. Okay, so I will have a clean new single view application, and this is the best way we can learn to do everything from scratch. So I will have next. And now the product name, maybe I will use something like intro to or drawing, okay? And next, I'll put it into my desktop. All right. So how are we going to do this? The first thing we will need to do is we will have a class that will override, that will subclass of a UI view or a UI button, okay? Whenever you want to draw something on the view, we want to have a class for that, a special class, a custom class for that, and we would do everything about the drawing in that class. But in our project, we have two buttons, so that custom class will subclass from UI view, and of course, UI view will subclassing UI. I'm sorry. We will have a custom class, the subclass UI button, and the UI button is subclass UI view. So I will have file, new file, okay? And then we'll have a subclass of UI button. I would retype it like that. And the class is, let's say I have the buttons, or let's say buttons. Button view, okay? And then, or we can actually, let's do it designable, because later on we can learn to use the class, write this code, but then we will use IB designable, and then we can change some of the attributes of that button in storyboard, in interface builder, and Xcode very nicely will render the drawing live for us. So this is designable button view, and I will place it into drawing like that, and the group is drawing. All right, so have next. So let's talk about this. The first thing we are going to do is let's drag out a button for this, okay? And for this button, I will have button like that, okay? Let's make it center. And this width is 100, height is 100 also, okay, like that. All right, and let's say I want to have this one center horizontally, center vertically in container, okay. And we also need to have the width and height like that. Very quickly, auto layout, okay. And I will delete this button. I'm sorry, I will delete the text, the title, and then I will go over the custom class. The class is designable button view, right? Like that. See, class designable button view. So let's talk about the designable button view. Well, in order to use core graphic to draw something on the canvas, on the view, we will need to actually do several things. The first thing we will need to do is we have to define a path, and that path will tell core graphic the line to draw, the line to chase, and then we will draw in that line. So in order to draw something, we will need to, number one, we will need a path, define a path, and that path will tell core graphic to about the line to chase things. Let's say we want to stroke it, or we want to fill it with colors, okay? And then the second thing is we will stroke it or we can fill it. We can stroke it, meaning that the outside, the outliners of these, okay, or we can fill it with colors, of course, okay. And the stroke we can of course do the width and height, things like that. Okay, and that's it. All right, it's that simple. And let's talk about this path. This path, the core graphic is a gigantic framework, but in this tutorial alone, we will use something called a UI Bezier Path. And this UI Bezier Path is quite simple to use, and actually it's very good for us to have some introduction to this. So we will use UI Bezier Path, like that. Okay, so let's do this. Now, how are we going to do this? To draw something, we will do almost all the things on the drawing in a class that override from UI view called draw right. Okay, so let's override that. I will just draw right like that, and then we will see that draws the receiver's image within the passed in rectangle, and this is the rectangle. Okay, and what is that rectangle? This rectangle, if our view over here, where is it? Here, this is the button, right? So that is this rectangle with the width of 100, the height of 100. That is that rectangle over there. Okay, so now I will do the drawing, do the drawings here. Okay, and so the first thing we'll need to do is we will create a path, a UI Bezier path for this. Okay, and I will create var path equals UI Bezier path. Okay, and then this UI Bezier path has a method called oval in rect, and this oval in rect creates and returns a new UI Bezier path object initialized with an oval path inscribed in the specified rectangle. What it does is we have this rectangle and we will draw a circle inside that. Okay, it's just that, and then right. Okay, so what it does over here, we will have this path. Okay, now this is a rectangle. Okay, this is a rectangle and this is the path. Okay, I hope that when I do the mouse like this, you can see this is the path, and this should be the rectangle around it. Okay, and let's say I will fill it. Okay, I will do UI color dot let's say blue color dot set fill. So that very simple, we can fill this like that, and then I will do path dot filled. So this, now let's actually run this code to see what's going on here, and then we will discuss about that. Okay, I will run this like that. Where's my simulator? All right, so you see that there's nothing here. We did fill it. Okay, so what happened is this, when we call this line of code set fill, we just tell the UI Bezier path that, okay, I want to fill this with the blue color. Okay, but we didn't tell it to fill it with that color. So I would do path dot fill like this, and now when we run this, we should have this beautiful circle. Okay, and it looks not very like interesting, but see, we have just 3 lines, 4 or 5 lines of code, and we draw this. Okay, and with this one, actually, what's cool about this is a lot of times you will need to draw some custom view, and that view, when you draw in good code, you don't have to worry that if next year Apple introduce a new kind of display that is way more pixels or way more points inside the display, and we don't have to worry that the image is distorted or is broken. Okay, that's one thing cool about core graphics. And now let's say I want to draw the plus sign over here. Okay, but the plus sign, if you see, it is actually just a line like that, and we have also a line like this. Sounds like another Bezier path, isn't it? Okay, we have a line like that, which is just a Bezier path with the stroke of the white color, right? And now this is also a Bezier path with the plus, with the vertical thing, and it also stroke. Okay, so now I will call this method called draw the sign. Okay, and this is something I would write now from draw sign. Okay, now I have something to tell you. Well, whenever we want to draw something on with UI, with core graphics, we actually draw it on the UI view context, a graphics context. Okay, so let's have some notes over here. We draw on the UI views graphics context. Okay, and on the drawing from the view, it will renders into this context before everything is transferred to the device hardware, meaning that everything we draw on this context, it will renders, and then it will transfer to the screen like that, and it appears to be a circle with blue colors like that. Okay, and then what happens is iOS, the system alone, it will somehow call this draw rect method. Okay, and this draw rect method is called only by the system, and let's say when there are several cases when iOS updates the context, and it will call draw rect. Okay, now there are several cases. iOS calls draw rect when, okay, the first thing is when the view is new to the screen, meaning that when this load, then this is new, right? Then it will call draw rect. Then we will draw this path, and then we will fill it with color. So the view is new to the screen. And the second case is other views on top of it are moved. So let's say we have another view on this, and then it moved to somewhere else. Then this also is called draw rect. Okay, then the system will call it other views on top of the view of it. Let's say of it is moved. The third one is when the view's hidden property is changed. The hidden property is changed. That should be straightforward with you, right? Every view has a hidden property, and when it's changed, then the draw rect is called again by the system. Okay, the key thing is by the iOS system. Now, the third thing, well, why do I say this to you? The thing is, you don't ever call draw rect directly. Okay, do not, I will actually do capitalize, do not ever call draw rect directly. Okay, and draw rect is called by the system. Okay, the system will do whatever it needs to do to call draw rect. Okay, so we cannot call draw rect. If we call it, there will be ugly things happen. Okay, so now what if we want to like somehow tell the system to draw this again? Okay, well, that's when we need to call, we explicitly call set needs. There's a method called set needs display, and another method is set needs display in right. Okay, that's another method. And now with this method, we will talk about those in later video in this series. But now let's just assume that we never call draw right. Okay, that's one side note I want to talk about. So right. So let's say I want let's talk about the designable thing. Okay, Xcode 6 has something very cool that the main.storyboard, it can render drawing code live. Okay, and what all we need to do is over the class here, I will have @IB designable like that. Okay, and now when we open the storyboard, it will render like that. Okay, boom, see that, just like that. Okay, so now we don't have to run it again. Now when I will open this so that I can have my code on the right hand side, just like that. Okay, so maybe we can see it very nice like this. Okay, and now let's say I want to have another method, some variables, so that I can change it in the interface builder. Okay, so let's say I have var fill color equals UI color dot green, let's say green color. Okay, and now over here, instead of UI color blue color, I will use fill color. Okay, and you will see that this is changed like that. Okay, and now I want to inspect it. I want to be able to inspect it from the attribute inspector like this. Okay, all I need to do is I will add sign AB designable. I'm sorry, it should be assign IB inspectable. Okay, like that. And now when we click on this one, okay, right, I click onto this button, and then over here there should be, where is it? Oh crap. I assign IB inspectable like that. Alright, I know what's wrong. I need to have color. I have to tell explicitly this is UI color. Okay, and then I will select this one. There you go. We have this is the fill color like that. Okay, so now let's actually try this color. Let's say the red one, and the code for this is EE4040. Okay, if you want to have the same color as mine. Alright, so that's IB inspectable. So now I want to draw the sign. Inside the draw the sign, let's say I want to draw the first thing as the horizontal dash sign first. Okay, so I would do draw horizontal dash. There's another method that I'm going to draw, and then I will draw horizontal. Let's actually copy it like that. Okay, and let's implement this. Now this thing is going to be crazy. Okay, so now the first thing, we still need the path, but before we need the path, let's actually have something called the plus height and the plus width, which is just the height and the width of this dash line. Okay, and let's say I want the height to be just 3 points, so I let plus height, which is a CG float, equals 3.0, and I have let plus width, which is also a CG float, equals, well, what is this width? It should be either the bounds.height or the bounds.width. Okay, so we have the bounds.height, which is this one. This is the bound of this, right? And this is the bound.height, or this is the bound.width. But what if this is not a square? What if it is a rectangle or something, right? So we will have to find the mean of the bounds.width and the bounds.height. The bounds, all right. And then so it can be either the width or the height. In this case, it can be like the width, right? And now I want just 60% of this, the length, right? Times 0.6, which is just 60%. All right. So now let's create the path to draw on that, right? So we have var plus path equals UI Bezier Path again. Okay. So that we have the UI Bezier Path. Now, because we want to stroke this one, so let's have the line width to be the plus height, right? So we have the plus path dot line width, which is the line width of the path, equals the plus height. Okay, and then we will want to now what is a UI Bezier Path has something called a starting point. Okay, and so it means that let's say we want to start from this. Okay, we want to start from this, and then we will move it to this point, and then we will draw it like that. Okay, let's say I have a point like that, right? And then I will move the point to this, and this is still the Bezier path, right? It is a kind of like an invisible Bezier path, but I specify that this is the starting point, and then I move to another point like that, and then I will stroke it. I will stroke it, meaning that I will fill it like that, and then we have the dash line. Okay, so this is a very poor presentation of that, but I hope that you get it. Like you will have a point like that, and then we'll have another point like that, and we'll stroke that. Okay, so now I will have the plus path dot move to point, and now we will need a CG point. Okay, and then we have to specify the x and the y. What is the x? The x is the bounds. Let's say we know about the bounds dot width and bounds dot height, right? So now I want to have it somewhere over here. Okay, so I want to have somewhere over here. So it should be the bounds, which is the whole thing, the bounds dot width, which is that one, and then I divide by 2, which is right there in the center. That is the x. Okay, the x is this axis. It's right there, and then it's minus. Now I want to move it to the left so that it's over here. Okay, so it should be bounds dot width over 2 minus, what is it? Minus the plus path dot width, right? I'm sorry, the plus width over 2. Okay, so we have the bounds dot width over 2, which is this point, minus that. Okay, so we have bounds dot width over 2 minus plus width over 2, just like that. What about the y? The y should just be the bounds dot height, which is that one, and then we move it down like that. Okay, bounds dot height, right? Oh, did I say that we move like that? Okay, so this is the y axis, right? And the bounds dot height, which is like that, and we divide by 2, which is this point. So we divide by 2 like that. Okay, and now we have this point right here. I want to move another point to this. I want to add another point like that. Okay, and now I will use the plus path dot add line to point. Now and then I will specify the point. Plus path dot add line to point, and then I will need a CG point. Okay, and then I will specify the x and the y. What is the x? The x is bounds dot width over 2, and then instead of minus, it should be over there, so it should be plus, right? This is this point. The x is at this point is bounds dot width minus bounds dot width over 2, and to this it is bounds dot width minus over 2 plus width over 2, right? Plus plus width over 2. Okay. How about the y? The y should be very simple. We should just still the same. Bounds.height over 2. Alright. It's that simple. And now all we need to do is we will stroke that. UI color.white color.stroke set stroke, and then we will plus path dot stroke, and guess what, after like 2 or 3 seconds this one will have this line. Woohoo, how amazing is that, right? There we go. We can actually run this to see, but why do we can run it live? So there you go, see that? Beautiful. All right, so now we will, after we do this, we will draw the vertical line, right? Because the plus has the dash like that, and then vertical. So we call draw vertical dash. Okay. Now I will pause the video for actually I will do fun draw vertical dash. Okay. Now I would recommend you to pause the video for a few minutes and try to do it yourself, because it should be just the same. It's the same like this, but the only difference is these points, and I want you to practice with these points. It's just like the bounce dot width minus over 2 and the bounce dot height over 2, things like that. Okay, simple math, right? So let's pause the video and practice with this. All right. Now I hope that you that you managed to do this. To save you some time, I will paste it from my current project, the final the complete project. And if you want to download the complete project, go down to the link right below. Okay. So now we have this plus sign, right? So I will do very quickly to have the minus sign. Okay. And I will draw a button like that. Again, and instead now I will have 50 by 50. Okay, and for this, delete this button. All right, and for that, make it center like this. Okay, and this is designable button view, and we have that plus, right? And let's quickly do the center, what like that. And then the width and height. All right, now I want to change the color of this. I'll change to this color, and the code for this is 757D5. Or you want to know the RGB, it is that. Right. So now how are we going to have the minus? Well, the minus should be straightforward, because we just need to draw the horizontal dash line, right? So now I will do something over here. We have the var is plus is at button, okay? And then it is bool. Now by default it is true, and if it is the plus button, okay, if it is at button, then I will draw the vertical line like that. If it is not the add button, then I won't draw it. Okay, and now I want to inspect that, so I will do IB inspectable like that, right? And then over here I will choose this one, and then we have another attribute inspector, which is add button, and then I will do off, meaning false. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the minus sign. Okay, now let's play that. Actually, let's run that. There we go. Alright, how beautiful this is. Now, I hope that you enjoy this daily challenge. In the next daily challenge, we will continue to dive deep into core data. Core graphics, and I hope that we will do very complex things with core graphics. This is a humongous framework, and I think it's very cool and kind of like sometimes it's complex about the math things, about the coordinate, right? I think it's hard also, so I'd like to challenge us with that. So let's, in the next daily challenge, I see you.